All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Writers and Editors of Color. Today, we're going to be talking with you about building an online community. We really appreciate you joining us. We'll just start off with some brief introductions, and then we'll hop right into today's topic. So, first and foremost, thank you for joining Medium for Medium Day. We realize this is Medium's first time doing something like this, and we're really excited to be a part of it. We feel honored to be a part of it. Um, my name is Allison Wilkes, and I'm a writer, editor, and Black scholar who is currently pursuing my PhD in psychology. I am a guest editor for Momentum, which is a Medium publication that features stories about anti-Black racism, and I'm the editor in chief of my own publication, Culture, where writers get to redefine culture through their writing. In addition, I am the editor for our WEOC publication. In this case, WEOC stands for WEOC, Writers and Editors of Color. You could find our publication at www.writersandeditorsofcolor.com. And today, we will share a little bit about our journey, how to build an online community, and the benefits to building relationships with other writers. But first, I would love to give my co-panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves. Savannah.
Hi, everybody. My name is Savannah Worley. I am a writer on PM. I primarily write about social justice, anti-racism, and mental health. I have bylines on Afrosapiophile, uh, Momentum, and Injustice, Cultured, and other various publications on Medium. And I earned my bachelor's in journalism and political science in 2009 at Indiana University Bloomington. I was a freelance newspaper
Oh
reporter
my
in my
God.
life, and
I can't hear
yeah,
y'all.
now I just write on Medium. So I am going to pass it on to Arturo to introduce himself. Arturo, Mr. Arturo.
Savannah, I think he's having just a little bit of an audio mishap. Arturo, if you're listening, we could actually hear you. Okay. I don't know if you can hear us. He might be connecting with
Yeah,
Bluetooth.
you might be having some connection issues. Um,
You want to tell folks where they can find you online, and I'll do the same while he gets connected.
where we can find what?
Well, people could find your writing on Medium.
Oh, well, they can find it at skworley.medium.com. And again, I have bylines at Afrosapiophile, Momentum, Cultured, and well, I already said Momentum. Other various publications. I have written everywhere, so yeah, it's best to just go directly to my profile, skworley.medium.com. And just check out my writing there. And again, I write about social justice and those sort of issues. Sometimes I get personal with mental health. Life happens, and I like talking about myself. I don't know why. I just do. So uh,
Ah,
yeah,
this
it
is
sounds like Arturo's
stupid.
having issues, unfortunately. But
That's
yeah,
okay.
I,
He'll be back.
yeah. But I don't know, Allison. Do you want to move on?
Yeah, I'll do the same. You could find me on Medium at Ali from NOLA.medium.com. And I write about racism. I write about the experiences of women and also marginalized community. And I love writing about culture and history. And so when Arturo does come back, we'll give him an opportunity to introduce himself. But we appreciate you guys coming. So we do want to keep it moving and provide uh, some information about building an online community. So first of all, I want to say that I really get excited by the idea of building an online community. Originally, I was really skeptical of the idea of an online community having that much value. Um, but the value that it has had has really opened my eyes to what how much fun it could be. So I'm definitely glad that you guys joined us. I want to check to see if Arturo's audio is good. Are you on
Yeah,
there?
it's yeah. I'm working now. I had to reload my thing. I guess from our pre-meeting thing, the mic didn't switch. So
Oh, okay. It was still on Google mode. Okay, we'll give
yeah, yeah.
Arturo a chance to introduce yourself and we'll hop back in it.
All right, guys. I'm Arturo Dominguez or Arturo Dominguez. If you can't roll your R's, it's one of my favorite lines. Founder and editor of the Antagonist magazine on Medium and online. I write for a lot of publications on Medium. I also write for Unicorn Riot, Latino Rebels. I get around. Aside from that, I'm one of the leaders here at WEOC. Just trying to build community and move forward together and help uplift each other. Sorry, I wasn't really prepared for an intro, but
Oh no, you're okay. Your natural intro is just fine. I love it. So I was telling them how today we're going to break down our discussion about building an online community into three categories. We're going to talk about our journeys. So we're going to share that with you. And then we're going to talk about how to build an online community. And lastly, provide you some details on the benefits to encourage you to do the same. So, like I was saying, I get excited by the idea of an online community because I was really skeptical that something like that could have value for me. I grew up in New Orleans and was very much a socialite. And I was born in '88. So, growing up, the internet wasn't what all the kids were on. We were in the streets, as they say. And now the world is so much more digital. It's so much more immersed. And so I get excited about talking about this online community that we built because it's actually been successful. And I guess successful by our own measures. But so bam, we want to take a moment to share our story about building an online community, and then we'll dig into some guidance on how you can do that. So at the end of 2019, I began reading stories on Medium. I believe the first story I came across was written by Elizabeth Warren. At the time, she was eyeing a presidential campaign. And I forgot what topic she was speaking about, but I was interested enough to click that button and learn. And while it was interesting to read her words, I stumbled across something that was way more amazing to me, a platform that allowed anyone, even someone like me, who had only been published in a high school creative writing magazine in the past, an opportunity to share their ideas with the world. So I set out to start writing, mostly about Black people and women's experiences, because those are very personal to me. But also I wrote more broadly about culture and history and making the connection between history and the things that are happening today. In the beginning, though, I felt really alone in the process. I would write a story and then hear crickets. And then I would wonder, like, what am I even doing here? And that was before I started building a community. So the process of building a community and interacting with other writers led us to create an organization, which we call Writers and Editors of Color. We felt that Black writers and writers of color, in part because of the topics we often write about, but also because of the racism in modern society, that were often left out of traditional networking opportunities. So we decided to foster a community that catered to writers who wanted a safe space to connect with each other, to learn, to grow, to share one another's writing. So I got to work. I crafted logos using Canva and helped to create sub-community guidelines such as no plagiarism, no harassment, no negative shout-outs, and voila, WEOC was born. Our community then kind of had a snowball effect where more writers started learning about us and joining us along the way. We wanted to firmly reject the read for read culture that exists in a lot of online writing groups. Oftentimes you go to a writing group and they just want you to read their story and then change their read your story, and then the interaction is over. It's almost like a quid pro quo. So we wanted to put our beacon up and offer a lighthouse for writers to find us, a community that was different. So we started a Slack channel, a Slack network, and it started to thrive. And our Slack network is only for WEOC writers, no matter how often or seldomly they write. And it offers all of us an opportunity to communicate, despite us living in 13 different time zones. So if we were to only restrict ourselves to engaging in a traditional writing network that was like in our little cities or towns or localities, we would be missing the opportunity to engage with all these different people from all these different perspectives and walks of life. And so that's what makes Slack so cool, because it gives you an opportunity to communicate, even if you have different opportunities to interact throughout the day. Everyone doesn't have to be online at the same time in order to be in each other's lives and to help each other. We also started meeting every Sunday on Twitter Spaces. We meet at 12 p.m. Eastern. And if you follow any of us, it's really easy to catch the links because we share them. And we call that our Writing for Change speaker series. We're firm believers in no matter what you write about, you're writing to make an original contribution. So you're trying to make some sort of change. So we come together as a community to try to be effective in our change making. But we also come together to share our writing, to read live poetry, live prose, to connect with one another and find new members of our audiences. So it's a really enriching opportunity for all of us. And for me, building an online community was just what I needed because it made me feel encouraged to be a part of something bigger than myself. And WOC definitely gave me comfort during a time when most of the country was experiencing a lockdown and a lot of people felt isolated. And during that time, we were developing our community and I had a lot of fun. So thanks for listening to my journey. And I'll now pass it over to my co-panelist, Savannah.
Well, when it comes to my journey, I started writing on Medium in August of 2020. This was a little bit after George Floyd was murdered by Derek Chauvin. And I was, talking to a friend. I was just like, I really miss writing. It was years after I freelanced for newspapers, and she, recommended Medium to me, and I was just like, oh, okay. And I just started writing. I started writing about mainly my personal experiences with racism. I kind of have a unique experience because I grew up in a white community, all white community. I am biracial. My dad's Black, my mom's white. I was raised by my white mother. I do have PTSD. I'm very open about this. I do have PTSD from trauma from racism. And I just started talking about it and writing about it. I was just kind of, Allie has a article about writing into the void. That was exactly what I was doing. I didn't know if anybody was reading. I didn't know, but I just went ahead and wrote how I felt. And actually, it was Allie who found my writing, and we just started talking to each other. And she was the one who invited me to join WOC. And I kind of jumped at the opportunity because I felt very isolated and alone, just, writing by myself. And writing can be a very uh, isolated and isolated. Well, it can be very isolating. I didn't know the word, but anyway, she invited me into the group, and ever since then, I just felt like I was a part of something bigger than myself, and it's a very wonderful feeling. It really is. I get to network with people. I got to meet friends. I got to learn more about other people's writing, and through other people's writing, through reading it, through learning their process, through learning their journeys and how they got to where they are, I learned a lot about myself as well, if that makes sense. So that's just a little bit about my journey, and I'll just go ahead and pass it over to Arturo. I cannot roll my R's. I'm sorry, Arturo, but I'll pass it on to you so you can talk about your journey.
Well, for me, I've been on Medium, I want to say since 2015, so it's been a long time. And it's it is a bit of a when you're first starting, you just have that feeling of shouting into the void. There's a little bit of feeling alone. And what I liked about Medium though is that it's very easy to find like-minded people who are writing about the same things you're writing about. In that sense, to build community, it makes it simple. You follow topics, you do all, there's all kinds of things you can do. You comment on each other's stuff. But for me, my journey it was a bit touch and go. And then, Allison did the same thing. She reached out to me, about woke. And it was then when I really found, a community that was like on the same page, pro-black, racial justice, human rights, things like that. And from my experience in the journalism thing, there's a lot of topics that don't have two sides that you're not supposed to be objective about, right? So racism, human rights, racial justice, things like that. So like I found this community here, and it helped. It didn't just validate me because of like personal biases. It helped validate what I was doing because I'm around a lot of people who cite what they say. They back it up. Allison's good at this. Like so many of us are really good at just backing up what we have to say with facts and with data and so many things that it's hard to clap back on. So for me, that's where the sense of community really started to grow. When we do stuff like, the 1619 project and things like that, that was a real big eye opener for me, despite, I'm originally from New Jersey, grew up in a very diverse community in Union City, moved to, Texas via Miami, where, now I'm in Texas where it's like all white. There's a whole different kind of racism down here. And I've been here 30 years now. So it was a culture shock, but, being in with community, you can make those connections between one and the other and see how they're all tied together. And like a lot of people don't think that like in the North, you have the same racism issues that you do in the South. But when you go to like rural areas in the North, it's just like it is in the South. It may not be that way in the urban centers and the cities and things like that, but you go to upstate New York, you go to rural New Jersey, rural Pennsylvania, and it's just as bad. It feels oxymoronic when you see a Confederate flag somewhere up north, but they're there and they're everywhere. So the community, for me, my journey is really built on this community because, like I said, I've been writing I had a stroke in 2014. So around then is when I really started writing full time. And it felt aimless, up until Allison found me and we got into woke and got this whole community built. And 2 years later, I'm one of the leaders. So it's kind of it's a position in the group that I take with great honor, and I'm humbled by it. And I also have a lot of respect for everybody in this community. Like Allison said, we're so many time zones. Like we have Palestinian writers, we have people in Africa, all over the world. So it's really cool. It's an eye-opening experience. Like we're learning from each other, you know, certain things like, for example, I had a lot of blind spots when dealing with Asian people, and I learned a lot about that through this community. So it helps expose our blind spots. It helps open more doors for us, and it helps us be more conscious of what we're talking about and being mindful and respectful to each other. It's really a great experience, and Medium helped facilitate that. So that's one of the reasons I appreciate Medium so much.
Yeah, I definitely agree. All of us met through Medium. So, we went from online to like a real life friends by using the Medium platform. And first we started to do skill building labs because we wanted writing to be accessible to everyone. A lot of people think that you have to be a good writer, but we're all firm believers that anybody who wants to express themselves can write, and maybe they just need support and resources on how to improve their writing so that they could get what they want to say to a broader audience. So that kind of brings us to the next part of our conversation, where we're going to be talking about how to build an online community. And then we'll go over some benefits. But we definitely want to leave everyone feeling empowered to do this themselves, whether you want to join WOC, which you can do by going to writersandeditorsofcolor.com and clicking join in the right hand corner. Or if you scroll down past the first three stories, you can click that button and you can just complete a type form to join us. But whether you're going to join WOC or another online community, we definitely want you to know how to engage in that process. So the next part will be about how to build that online community. So for me, building an online community is relatively easy, but it does take consistent effort. So in 2021, I wrote an article called Writing into the Void is the First Step to Success, because I felt my story could be relatable to others who are just getting started. So oftentimes people will see someone with a large audience and they're not sure how to get from point A to point B. So I was hoping to offer some advice and also encouragement to others. So if you're new to writing on Medium or publishing on an online platform, you will notice that you begin by writing into the void or writing to no audience at all. But this time is precious, in my opinion, because it gives you an opportunity to find your audience, hone your craft, and connect with others. So by you writing about the things that you like to write about, you're going to attract the audience that likes to read about those topics. And the more you write, the better writer you become. So that's how you hone your craft, and you could connect with others by engaging in the comments section. That's one of my favorite ways. So for me, building an online community requires that you consider what you want to get out of a community and what you can offer to other people. It's about making a commitment to engage with others in a meaningful way. So I believe I'm part of several different communities on Medium. The first is the general writing community that includes all the writers on the platform. The second is writers in my niche. And those are writers that write about marginalized experiences, because those are the stories I generally seek out and want to learn more about. And third is within WOC, which is our organization, the Writers and Editors of Color. I definitely keep up with a lot of their stories. And you can build an online writing community by finding and supporting writers who inspire you, who you feel some sort of connection with. And in my experience, this has to be genuine, because that's going to be the foundation of your communication with others. So if you go around, for example, I don't know much about being a mechanic, and if I were to read a few stories about that, unless I was in the process of learning, I probably wouldn't keep up with that. That wouldn't be the people I'm finding community in. So part of it is just about thinking about what type of community you want to be a part of. So how can you support writers? On Medium, they make it really easy. You can read the writer's work. You can highlight keywords, phrases, or sentences, and you could leave a comment and clap, and you can share their work. And ideally, I feel like all of these things could be done. You could read it, highlight some things you really enjoyed, clap to show your support, and share it. And if you do all of those things, not only will you most likely be noticed by the writer, but also by their writing community, because it's an acknowledgement that you're interested in those same types of topics. So while many of our writers in our community write about social justice, you might be interested in self-help or cooking, and you can apply this exact same strategy. Read and connect with writers that you enjoy. Use the tags of topics that you're interested in if the algorithm hasn't yet learned your taste. And feel free to also hit that following tab, because that way you could keep up with the writers you follow, not just the ones that are recommended. And if you want your community to be more official, consider finding some people who want to do the same. You can start a Medium publication of your own. You can create writing submission standards and ensure that people know how to access your community. And of course, enjoy the process, because creating is fun. This is the fun part. And that being said, there are many publications and existing writing communities for you to join. So feel free to join those instead of crafting your own if that's a better fit for you. And thank you for listening to my how-to, and I'll pass it over to Savannah.
All right. Sorry, I wouldn't unmute. Thank you, Ali. As for me, like I was a longtime member, and then I believe just a few months ago I became one of the leaders. Um, and I'll just explain how that happened. How I just became one of the members to being like a leader or, just recognized in the community. Um, I was kind of a nervous wreck whenever I first joined the community. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to network. I didn't know how to talk to people, because writers are usually we're usually introverted. We're usually very socially awkward. Uh, I don't know how we function in society, but um, but you know, um, but I just tried, and I just met people as awkward and weird as I was. And uh, well, I think Allie, just to back up a bit, I think Allie found me through the tags, and that's another thing. Make sure you tag your articles correctly, so that other people can find you and possibly invite you to a community, just like Allie did for me. But anyway, moving forward, um, how I became a leader, like I really just stepped up. One day, I just stepped up to the plate and I volunteered. And again, I was a nervous wreck. I didn't know what to do. I didn't, but I eventually began co-hosting the weekly meetings that we have on Twitter Spaces. We, like Ali said before, we meet every Sunday to read poetry, prose. We talk about mental health every month, and then once every other Tuesday, we talk about the 1619 Project by Nicole Hannah Jones. Um, and I co-host all of them. And whenever I first tried to talk in Twitter Spaces, I was nervous. But eventually I just grew, and that's my only advice is to just try to put yourself out there. Um, and then I see Adrian asked a question about how we took our relationships from online to in real life. We haven't yet, but one day, like I really want to form like a conference or something. Not in the South where Ali or Arturo is, because it is hot down there. I don't see how they live down there. I don't. I am so sorry, guy. Keep cool. Um, but anyway, I'll pass it over to Arturo so that he can offer his advice.
Yeah, for me, and I appreciate the shout out about the heat because we are cooking down here. We haven't had rain in like I don't even know 40 some days, but yeah, a lot of the things you guys touched on already are pretty critical to building community on Medium. If you want to find like-minded writers, obviously, you read their work, you comment on their, you interact with their stuff. One of the biggest features, and I've mentioned this before, that I like about Medium is, if you're on Twitter, for example, and you have your Twitter link to your Medium, if I share Allison's or anyone else's article, it automatically tags them, tags the writer. And what I like about that is it lets the writer know that, you're out here sharing their stuff, you're tagging them. So, my audience can connect with them. And then at the same time, we end up following each other on Twitter. This just happened to me about 3 or 4 days ago with another writer. We started following each other on Twitter. We started following each other on Medium. And now it's just because I shared an article and tagged them, on Twitter. So that I think is a big, a key point in building community with Medium. Medium actually makes it relatively easy because of the topics, the tags, for example. If you're interested in like Black Lives Matter type stuff, look up Black Lives Matter. Racial justice, you can look that up. Or justice or human rights, or, you want to look in on stuff on society, culture, immigration, it's all there. There's no shortage of content on Medium. It is a sizable platform. A lot of people say, how do you find community on such a big place? I think of Medium as big as it is. I think of it as more like a small town. I think of it as in comparison to the internet on the broader scale, when you're in Medium, you're like sort of in a small town. Like you can communicate with each other relatively easily, and you can find community. You can also find people who are gonna argue with you about your points, and things like that. But it's not as bad as some commenters can be here and there. It's not a toxic environment like, say, Twitter or Facebook or open social media channels. There are tools there where you can avoid that stuff. Just you can ignore things. You can if people are being threatening and things like that, you can report things. So there's a lot of tools in place, and I know that on the surface and when you're first on Medium, you may not see them and you may not realize it. And there is some fear that comes with the writing, right? And a lot of that comes from the clapback you get from people, because it doesn't matter political affiliation, things like that, or anything. Somebody's going to clap back on you, right? Regardless of what you're talking about, even if you're talking about auto mechanics, like Allison said, that's a pretty toxic culture on the internet. So my son's an auto mechanic, so I kind of know a little bit about that, and they fight all the time about stuff. So nothing's sacred on the online anymore, and so people will argue and things, but like I said, there's tools in place, and the benefits to Medium far outweigh any of that other negative stuff. So especially if you're trying to find readers, if you're trying to build community, if you're trying to build a platform for yourself, I think Medium is arguably one of the best places to do that. There's some other up and comers here and there, but what Medium has above everybody else is staying power. They've been here a long time, pushing a decade now, right? If not already past a decade. So yeah, Medium is a really useful tool for writers, and it comes with a lot of great benefit and things like that. Generating an income from it at first obviously is going to be a little difficult, because you don't have the readership and things, but that eventually that grows with your platform. So yeah, I think going back to the whole building community, I think that's one of the critical issues, or the critical things you need to make it today. It's not like it used to be one viral article and all of a sudden you're famous. You kind of need that community support. You kind of need backup, things like that. So yeah, I've had, Medium's been a pretty good experience overall, and I've been there, like I said, been here since 2015. So I don't think I'm going anywhere. So I really like it here.
Thank you. Yeah, I love hearing what y'all had to say. I think, yeah, essentially building a community is very much possible for anybody, whether you want to create your own, whether you want to join WOC, or whether you want to engage in other existing platforms and different writing communities out there. Just experiment. Don't be afraid to experiment and meet new people online and see who you will like. And yeah, one day we will all meet in person. And yeah, there's a bunch of us that want to meet. And actually, there were a couple of WOC members that met each other already, because they lived in Washington. They lived in Washington D.C. together, and so they were able to go to some events. And so, but we definitely love being in community with one another. So lastly, I want to all of us are going to share just a little brief, a brief little zip about the benefits of building an online community, and we want to open it up to questions. We see we already got some. So I'm gonna definitely let you guys know that questions are now open, so you can start thinking about that while we are finishing up. So I'll keep this brief. The benefits of building an online community are numerous, of course, but I would say the best part of it for me is having a home base, a reliable space where I can connect with other writers about writing. Often writers do not live in a house full of writers, and it can feel like an isolating practice. But when you're part of an online community, you feel like there's always someone to talk to about your writing, which comes in handy when you are editing, whether you're brainstorming ideas or you're in search for advice from writers with just different skill sets and different experiences from you. And lastly, joining a community is fun. If you do it right, it feels like a family, or at least a homeroom class. Because that's the place where I check in the morning to see how everyone's doing and see what people are talking about, see what the buzz is all about. And when a lot of the chaos was going on with social media platforms, I felt like our community was stable, because it was off of all uh, those major platforms. So it gave us the ability to still have stability, still be able to talk to each other no matter what was going on or which sites were popular at the time. And writing on Medium is really easy to do. I like it. And also, I use Grammarly as an editing tool, and I love how if you use Google Chrome, you can like immerse that experience. And so, yeah, I'm like Arturo, I'm here to stay. And I hope that everyone today listening feels encouraged by what they've heard so far to either join an online community, create one, and whether you write all the time or every so often, it can be a fruitful experience to join a community. So I'll now pass it over to Savannah, and thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, I co-sign everything Ali said. Um, like the benefits for me is really just meeting other people. Again, being a writer can be a very isolating experience. So just meeting other writers who can be like, yeah, I'm alone too. It just kind of forms that bond, And like I said earlier, knowing, like, learning other writers, knowing them as people, knowing their journey, that just kind of uh, forms a bond with them. Like, it helps your journey too, if that makes any sense whatsoever. It and it kind of really helped with networking. I was able to find like other publications to publish in, like Afrosapiophile and Momentum. um, and it just really encouraged me to write. I've had members tell me, oh, well, you write this really well, or well, you write these sort of essays really well, or, so, it just really encouraged me to continue. And yeah, Medium, like without Medium, I would have never found this community. I'd never be invited to it. So I'm very glad that I started writing on Medium. And I just went from uh, being a 30 something, living with my mom, having a mental breakdown, to being a writer, and I finally have my own apartment. So but yeah, anyway, I thank you, Ali. I'll pass it on to Arturo.
Yeah, for me, you said it perfectly. It was the encouragement. I was a former government contractor until I had a stroke in 2014, right? So for me, and I've always written. I've been big on writing. Most of it has been technical documents. When I was a government contractor, but what I needed, that encouragement. I needed that sense of community. I needed a home base. Like for me, woke is home. I've made a lot of really valuable connections with a lot of people here. We text, we talk on the phone, we email, we do all kinds of stuff. And it's really awesome to have that kind of support, that kind of help. If somebody is reading my work, they might send me a DM, hey, you got a typo here, or you need to fix that, or things like that. But what I definitely needed the community. I was in a few other writing groups before woke, and most of them were really, mostly white, and there's a lot of racism and a lot of things, and you try to bring it up and everybody wants to go to war with you, and it's just like, it's extremely toxic. So when it comes to building community or trying to join a community that's already existing, especially out in the open internet, you have to like really be careful and pay attention, especially with if you're a person of color, especially if you're a black woman. Black women are targeted more than anyone else that I've ever seen, and it's just astounding to me how people target Black women like that. So when it came to woke, when Allison found me, I was apprehensive at first. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I fit in because I'm a whitish Latino. So even though half my family's Black, this is the complexion I ended up with. So like I didn't know if I was gonna fit in or anything like that, but it quickly became home. And like our talks on Sunday, I call it church because it's on Sunday. That's my church. I don't go to church. I go, that's us. So yeah, having that is extremely important, especially in today's day and age if you're trying to make it as a writer. um, I think I'll cut it off there because I know we're running short on time and we probably want to answer a question or two.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That was awesome. So yeah, this has been a really fun experience, and we do have a few questions, but not too many. But guys, feel free to ask us anything about the things that we're talking about building the community. I see. Beverly asked, "How do you join?" So I'll just reiterate that for folks that are just joining us. To join Woke, our group, you can go to www.writersandeditorsofcolor.com. It's going to take you to our Medium publication. You can submit stories on the publication, or you can just join our community and just be in our community. So you don't have to publish just because you're in our community. But if you do, we always love that. And there's spaces for our writers to share their bios so people can learn more about them. Any commentary on that?
If you do have issues, like joining it, like if you have issues with the website or something, like I believe, all right, I'm new to Hopin, completely new. Like I believe that you can view our profiles and like get our Twitter accounts. Like you can just add us or DM us, and we'll be able to help you out.
Yeah, and I saw that they have a direct message function. So yeah, feel free to
Okay.
DM us on either here or Twitter, and we can get you squared away.
Yeah, and one other thing I'd like to mention is that our publications, like whether you're in woke or not, if you're, for example, a white ally, like all of our publications are open to everyone. Culture, the Antagonist Mag. Um, we welcome writers from everywhere. Our community is mainly centered on trying to provide resources and just a safe space for writers of color. And for me, like the Slack group is, like I said, that's home, right? So like I can get in there and talk personal stuff, and I don't have to worry about you guys using it against me or anything like that. So it's a sacred place for me. Woke is so. The vetting process for us is very important. Like we don't just allow anybody in there. That's how you end up with infiltrators, trolls, things like that try to undermine your movement. So while for example, for like a white writer or something like that, you might have trouble getting into like the Slack group at Woke, but on our publications in our community and like sharing resources and stuff like that, we're not gatekeeping anything from anybody. We're for me, you look at me, I obviously benefit from privilege, and like I've told you guys 1,000 times, I abuse that in a sense to try to help the community, right? So whenever I come across a resource or something like that, I'm quick to share it with you guys because I feel like woke levels the playing field in a white dominated society and in a white dominated industry. Um, my name keeps me locked out of a lot of things because it ends in a Z. I'm Latino, I'm Cuban, and you hablo español, right? I speak Spanish. I'm like super cultured. I'm built into my community and things. So I get locked out of a lot of things and I feel that. But I see how it's so much worse for like y'all, for like Black women, for Black people, for like my Black family members. My sister's a assistant principal at a school. I've seen what she's gone through, and she's Black. I have Black nieces and nephews. It's so crazy to me because like no matter how much I see it, no matter how much I feel like I understand it, I will never know what it feels like. So I try to do my best to try to like just help and just throw as much as I can out there. This why I amplify y'all's voices so much. Is why I, promote y'all's writing. Like a lot of people follow me because I'm always promoting Black writers, Black women writers, and things like that. So again, we go back to building community, and that's another large part of it is, for me, I feel like sometimes I'm a window that provides access to like parts of the Latino community that wouldn't otherwise read Black writers. I see a lot of people in the Cuban community, which is known for its racism. People are like, wow, that's what I'm glad I read that. I'm glad you shared it. So it's when you build community, you're not just providing access for each other, but you're also providing access to your readers and to other people and open ideas and things like that. And I feel like that's how we achieve progress as a society.
I definitely agree with everything Arturo said. I feel like our community has allowed us to like invite intersectionality into our lives in a real way, where we're actually listening to people from different types of marginalized experiences and coming together to support each other as writers. So with that being said, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully, if Medium does this again next year, we'll see you guys next year. But if not, we'll see you writing on Medium, reading on Medium, and in our comment sections and on social media. And we hope that you have a great Saturday. Savannah?
Yeah, thank you everybody for joining us. We will see you out in Medium, in the writing world, and yeah, stay woke.
That's your
Thank you guys for attending this little panel, and I really enjoyed it. I'm glad Medium did this. A little nervous at first, but I'm glad we all participated in it, and I'm looking forward to listening to some of the other panels today. So I see some really great writers on there. So if you're here and you need something to do on a Saturday, this is the spot. This is where it's at. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye.